Hello everyone and welcome to this week's video tutorial. This will be another English commentary and it will be the 11th part in the appendix of the book Deception and Countermeasures in the Xiangqi opening. This was a match that was played in 1997 between Grandmaster Liu Dahua and Master Wenqing. Master Wenqing took black and eventually won the game. He is considered to be one of the strongest players in China to have never won the individual championship, although he was so very close uh, in, in 2000, I think. The author would like to express his gratitude for to Master Yang Wenqing himself and Grandmaster Zhang for allowing me to translate this book and make them into videos to promote Xiangqi. So without further ado, let us begin the game. Red started with the pawn opening and black countered with a thundering cannon defense. Red continued with c2 equals to 5 and black played e3 plus 5, which are all very common. Red continued with h2 plus 3 and black decided to push the pawn forward in this slightly more modern variation. This was an attempt by black to try to lead the situation on the board into a very complicated situation. Another commonly played move would be to play r9 plus 1, and red could usually counter with r1 equals to 2 or c5 plus 4. If r1 equals to 2 were played, these are the usual moves. And the moves given here are given in their book on opening tabia, and red would have a slight advantage in this situation, but black would have a perfectly playable game. If c5 plus 4 were played to prevent the chariot from crossing over the palace, usually black would continue in this manner. And the resulting situation would be that red would have more pawns, but black's chariots would be more active. It would be an equal situation for both colors. And again, the moves given here are found in their book on opening tabia. So we return to the board. So p3 plus 1 was played, and in response, red developed his horse to the edge file to protect the elephant. Another prophylactic move. And finally, the red chariot will patrol the riverbank and threaten the black pawn. Now, black had used up 2 moves to move this pawn over here. So now the issue would be, how would black deal with this pawn? Would he want to continue to protect it at the expense of undevelopment of the other black pieces, or would he want to give it up and develop the other pieces? So this would usually be a test for black, as red tried to create some opportunities. Now, usually, instead of r2 plus 4, c5 plus 4 has also been seen. So red would capture the central pawn, forcing delivery a check, and then play c5 equals to 1 to concentrate his forces on this flank. And from here on, black can continue with r4 plus 4, p7 plus 1, or even p3 plus 1 as possible viable counters. And each of these counters will lead to very complicated situations on the board, which are beyond the scope of this book. In response to red's r2 plus 4, in the match, black decided to play r4 plus 4 to trade material. In the book, Master Yan suggested that this was perhaps the best counter in this situation. Now, there were 2 other variations, p3 plus 1 and r4 plus 2. If p3 plus 1 were played, black would go for the 5-6 cannons, threatening to capture the pawn with the edge horse, and black will protect the pawn in this manner. and thus allow the red horse to be developed from the edge file. Black would do so likewise, capturing the central pawn for a check. Red would advance the horse to threaten the chariot. A counter threat to capture the cannon. And red would have the offensive, so the cannon would be very extremely mobile and finally be positioned at the bottom corner to threaten black's bottom rank. So red would have the offensive. Now what would happen if r4 plus 2 were played? Red would develop his left chariot, and red would have the initiative because the pawn would still have trouble advancing and was still vulnerable to capture, although black would have h1 plus 3 as a counter. So red would have the initiative in this situation because his left flank was underdeveloped and the chariot would still not have moved. So as the match continued, red played c8 plus 2 to offer a trade of chariots, and black this was part of premeditated attacking strategy by red. Now black decided not to trade chariots as he cleverly resolved red's trickery. Now it would appear that red would have gained a move in the process, but in actual fact the position of the red cannon would now be undesirable and would be a flaw in red's position. And if we were to compare the pros and gains, red would have lost more while black would have profited more from this exchange. Now what would happen if black decided to accept the trade of chariots with r4 equals to 8? Red would capture the chariot, threaten the horse, and play p3 plus 1 to prevent this horse from further developing, and then capture the black pawn, which cannot advance as this intersection is guarded by the horse. So therefore, black would have wasted 2 moves advancing the pawn, and red would have succeeded in his plans of increasing his initiative in the game. So after retreating the chariot to the pawn rank to protect the central pawn, red continued with c8 equals to 9. Now this was a natural move to make. Now could red capture the black pawn? After all, this was his idea all along. Let us see. If he did, black would be prepared to play h2 plus 4 followed by h4 plus 3 to attack the chariot and the cannon at the same time. Red's material are poorly coordinated. There are too many inherent flaws in this formation, and black would have an easy time ahead in the game. So as the match went on, the red cannon moved to the edge file, threatening to capture the black chariot. This would force the horse to move to the edge file, and now was the correct time to play r2 equals to 7, because now the cannon would have pinned the horse to prevent it from playing h1 plus 3. Now black would try to dislodge the cannon, and red would trade material. After trading material, it would appear that red would now have command in this very important line. But black would take his time to develop his left flank. Now after trading away some material, red would have lost the initiative. Red became aware of the implications of the board and decided to change his formation. This was done in preparation as he was prepared to play a very long positional game. Now, can red play p3 plus 1? Let us see. If it did, black would simply advance his cannon, threatening to play c8 equals to 7. If the red horse advanced, Black will retreat the cannon, say for example, for a very powerful skewer. Red will be in all sorts of trouble. So that is why Red decided to adjust his formation by playing c5 equals to 6. Now, since p3 plus 1 was not played, Black would take the opportunity to develop his horse. e7 plus 5 to fortify the central file and to land some defense over here. And Black traverses the cannon, hoping to offer trade of material. Now, this one of the strategy behind this move is that after trading material, Red had only one cannon left on board, and after trading material, Red would not have any cannons left on the board, and Black would have the advantage in terms of the variety of material left on the board because he would still have one cannon, one horse, and the chariots left. Now, in Xiangqi, a combination of three major pieces is considered to be the best or most desirable in most situations because the possibilities are much greater than, say, the combination of one chariot, one horse, and one cannon would be much more powerful than, say, two chariots or two cannons and one chariot, or two horses and one chariot. So this is a very important concept in Xiangqi. And Black is forced to trade material. And after linking the chariots, as can be seen, Black would have a very versatile formation. Both the red pawns have not been advanced, and this would delay the development of the red horses, while Black's pieces, cannon and horse, are ready to go. Now, in the game, Red decided to trade chariots with this move. Now, this in post-mortem analysis would suggest that this was a very weak move because it would increase the difficulty of Black attempting to get a draw. Instead, it was advised that Red could play p9 plus 1 or p3 plus 1 to trade pawns. After trading pawns, there will be lesser pawns on the board, and it would be easier for Red to attempt to force a draw. Now, by trading chariots, not much would have done to decrease the efficiency or the potential of attack of these Black pieces, as will be seen later on. So Black gladly accepted the trade, and now since the chariot has been traded, it was time for the Black horse to get a piece of the action. So Red decided to trade pawns at this point. And Red would now be faster in attacking by advancing his chariot to Red's pawn rank. Now, Black would now threaten the Black horse, and Black deftly retreated his horse. This was a very nice strategy whereby by taking one step backwards, Black would actually be prepared to advance it 2 steps forward. So this is another commonly used tactic or strategy in Xiangqi. Now, Black cannot let his guard down by playing h6 plus 4 because there will be no further lines of good development for the horse. And Red would simply defend with a4 plus 5, and Black would have a harder time trying to attack as compared to h6 minus 4 because more space would be present for Black to maneuver his pieces. Red will attack the central pawn. Again, Black would retreat his horse, preparing to advance it to h2 plus 3, whereby this will be a tiger-headed horse, and it will be a very powerful horse with a very good positioning of the pieces. So capturing the pawn, the tiger-headed horse, red tries to gain a pawn advantage, and black tries to even a pawn advantage and threaten the red horse, which forces it to move. Now, at this point in time, red very brilliantly played r1 equals to 4. Now, with this move, this left horse would now be trapped because it would not have any good lines for further development. It is also a crucial move in this game. And because the horse was now at this position, it could now attack and provide coverage for the black pawn when it crossed the river. All these would be very important factors, turning the turning the tip of the scales in black's favor. So black. How did red defend in this situation? He was not willing to go down without a fight. So he played r1 equals to 2, preventing or eliminating the threat of a black cannon attacking the bottom rank, forcing the black cannon away before he retreated his chariot to the third rank for defense. Now this was a very tenacious defense by the Grandmaster. And seeing the time was right, black advanced his pawn across the river. And red tried to maneuver his horse, hoping to maneuver it over here, or gain some form of attack or better positioning. But black would have none of it and played e3 plus 2. And red continued with h6 plus 8. Black moved his chariot away from danger, and red tried to mount some form of a offense instead of just simply playing passively. Now at this point in time, black advanced the chariot to attack the horse as he decided on a strong offensive. Now, would it be a good idea to capture the central pawn? The answer would be no, because red would be prepared to play r2 equals to 6, sacrificing a pawn to gain an open line for the further development of his horse. So let's say if h5 plus 6 were, r5 equals to 6 were played, threatening to capture the advisor, red would simply move the horse away. And the situation on the board would have been temporarily diffused. Red could simply play r6 plus 2 to offer trade of material, etc. And the situation would become drawish. So red adopted a very proactive stance with r3 plus 1, forcing the horse back, and black continued to advance his pawn. Again, black tried to offer a trade of material, and black would have none of it. And finally, black decided to deliver a check as he pinned black's material in this corner of the board on his flank. Now at this point in time, red made a blunder by advancing his elephant. This was a miscalculation. Instead, postmortem analysis suggested that he could have played h4 plus 6 to try to harass the black chariot. If this were done, black would be forced to retreat his chariot. Black could continue to retreat his chariot. And red would still be able to handle red's offense if need be. So black would not have gained much. Instead, by playing e5 plus 3, this would give black a chance to infiltrate red's position. So at this point in time, black made a very interesting move by pushing his horse to the corner of the board. Now usually this is ill-advised because Once the horse were at this position, there were only two intersections where it could move to, and the scope of the horse will be greatly limited. However, in this situation, it was a very interesting and powerful move that caught Red off guard. Now, Red tried to trade material, which of course Black refused, and could trade. Red was forced to retreat his horse in this manner, and allowing the pawn to advance in the nick of time. And Black tried to continue to harass the pawn, sacrificing his horse in the process. And at this point in time, in the game, Black decided to protect the horse with r3+4. However, because of the poor positioning of Red's formation, it was suggested that Black might have been better off simply capturing the elephants, or counter-sacrificing his horse for the elephants. Because after sacrificing the elephants, Red would like 2 elephants, and Black would actually have more opportunities to win, as he could be prepared to storm this flank and threaten the horse and capture the pawns, etc., etc. However, in the match, Black decided to protect the pawn, the horse in this manner. Red consolidated his defense. Black moved his cannon. Red advanced the pawn, and Black dealt with this pawn immediately. Red tried to move his king to safety, capturing the pawn, and finally the horse moved away as Red was prepared to play, say, e7-5 to threaten the Black chariot. Black countered nicely with c5 equals to 6. Black moved the chariot to safety. And Red advanced the horse to the rook file after another inaccurate assessment of the situation. Instead, it was suggested that h3+5 would have been better, because Red could patiently advance his pawn across the river, and that would increase the chance of forcing a draw. Unfortunately, with h3+4, Black would immediately play a6+5. Red would try to retreat his horse to try to gain material with, or try to trade material with h6-7 to force a draw. Black would have none of it. Now, by positioning the cannon on the central file, Red will be prepared to retreat his cannon over here to go for an iron bolt checkmate. Now, Black advanced his king in preparation, and Black moved his cannon again to the same file. And this was a very nice move, as will be seen later on. Black retreated his king, and Red will finally make his move, sacrificing his horse. Now, moving the king out was a very deadly move by Black. There was a hidden agenda, as Black was prepared to go for a kill. So this was moved in preparation to allow Black to move his chariot, to retreat his chariot to attack the other flank. So now, k4-1 by Black was also another oversight. Instead, it was suggested that Black could try to offer his pawn as a sacrifice. If the cannon captured the pawn, he could retreat his horse and force a trade of material. Instantly, after retreating the Black chariot, Red found that he was in tons of trouble. So, and although he had a free horse, Red did not dared not capture the horse and had to defend in this manner. If he did capture the horse, the following is a very nice tactical combination. Red will go immediately to play r2 equals to 6, preparing for a discover check and go for the iron ball checkmate. Black would be forced to retreat his elephant. Check. Now, only viable move. Another check. Yet another check. And as can be seen, the black king would have commanded this file. And the only legal move for red would be to play a6 plus 5. But in the process of doing so, black would deliver yet another discovered check with c5 equals to 1. So red will lose the chariot and the game immediately. So that is why red did not dare to capture the black horse, and instead he chose to play r9 plus 4. So at this point in time, it is quite obvious that black will now have a huge advantage. Now, black was not in a hurry to move his horse to safety. Instead, he sacrificed his elephant so that the black chariot would not be given an open line to move. Now, this was done with perfect timing. Now, again, red would have to try to deal with black's r2 equals to 6. This was a threat that he could not ignore and had to deal with immediately ASAP. So he will be forced to capture the elephant, but at this point in time, the game was decided. So I equals to 7. Black will now retreat his cannon. Black tried to trade material. Of course, black would not want to do so. And at this point in time, despite red's constant harassment, black decided to retreat his cannon and slow the pace of his attack slightly. Now he cannot be careless with r2 plus 1 because black will simply retreat his horse and red would have a chance for a reprieve after trading material. So r2 minus 3 was played in the game, and red was not given any chance of a breather. Red could not find a better move and decided to play p1 plus 1. r2 equals to 4, a5 plus 6. And at this point in time, since the red horse was now out, threatening to capture the chariot and also to maneuver for the pale corner horse checkmate, horse cannon checkmate, red resigned. So a quick recap: pawn versus thundering cannon. Red chose to advance the pawn in this variation. Black stored the horse on the left. And r1 equals to 2. Black chose to trade chariots in this situation, and red tried some mischief with c8 plus 2, but this move would eventually lead to red's demise. Black cleverly retreated his chariot, and after trading material, you can see that red's left flank was still congested and lacked development. Now, as the issue will now be on the development of this horse, red decided to move his cannon. But by this time, red would have seized the initiative, and black continued by trading away red's remaining cannon. And as we can see from the match that went on, the lack of cannon for red resulted in red's very, very passive position. And another weak move was made as red tried to relieve some pressure by trading with a chariot, but this would actually lead to further demise. And red's attack was very clear. It was this flank and this horse. And black retreated, his horse, trying to move to the tiger-headed horse position. And once the horse was at this position, it would take only 2 moves to get to the elbow horse. The horse would also allow the pawn to protect the pawn and prevent this central pawn from advancing if need be, and it was protected by the elephant. This was the black horse was simply too well positioned. Red tried to gain a pawn advantage, but black would start attacking the red's left flank. And this was another game-winning move by black as he controlled the movement of this horse. Black tried to defend tenaciously, but the black pawn will now have crossed the river, and this will become a major threat. Black tried to move the other horse, trying to create some mischief, but black would have none of it. Pawn is advanced. Again, black would attack. Would attack the horse in this manner. Afterward, black decided to change his moves, delivering a check, retreating the chariot. And red made another mistake with e5 plus 7, hoping to adjust his formation. But black pulled a very deadly shot out of the blue. A trade of chariots, which of course black refused. And black was now 1 piece up. And the rest of the moves are simply maneuvering of the pieces. And black would now focus his attack on the central file and attempt the iron ball checkmate. And from here on, it was basically black's game. And when the time was right, black retreated his chariot, preparing to attack this flank. And red could not capture the black horse. And after many more futile attempts, red resigned. I hope you've liked this match a lot. I learned quite a bit from this match, and if you like the work that I've been doing, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you, and have a good week ahead.